I'm here to review the first example problem in Module 4. It's going to be example problem 4. I kind of have a title called Window Application because kind of that's like this is the first time we're building a window application. You've already built several console applications. So you got your feet wet in coding, all right? And now we're bringing on another layer to programming, which is dealing with GUI, a window form. Okay, so objects of such. So I think now that you got your feet wet and understanding the infrastructure of Visual Basic coding aspects, we're going to be bringing in another layer, simple program here, just adding two numbers, nothing difficult, just trying to show you how labels, text boxes, buttons can all be used together. All right, so as I quickly click into Canvas just to do a slight overview of what's going to be happening, these example problems are nested inside the notes. Example problem 4, we'll go into saving a program, going to get into the overview of a Windows toolbar, review the property window a little bit. We're going to be creating a Windows form application, and we're going to be dragging and dropping. So a lot is going on here. Just try to bear with me. This is just an example problem, participation grade. So I'm going to be heading over to the web resources page programming, which I have it open right now. Okay, I'm in module 2 as we speak. All right, so if I scroll down to the notes section, and like I said last class, an overview, there's not many notes. We just got 2 example problems, and we're going to try to tackle creating our first really window application. So right-click and open up a window application. I believe I already have that tab open. Okay, so these are notes. The first 2 paragraphs I asked you to read is dealing with event-driven program. Now, when I mean by event-driven programming, it's mean by a click or some sort of action with your mouse or keyboard. Okay, most certainly like with the mouth or the pad on your keyboard. Okay, so I kind of discussed this in the overview. This is what you're going to be selecting, the window form application during runtime. If I scroll down here, you could see how I wanted you guys to create a module 2 folder. So if I jump back into the documents, go into programming, I have a module 2 folder. Go back to the overview and review how I did it. Again, if I go in module 1, I moved all those files, okay, that was just in programming into a module 1 folder. It's not that difficult, okay? You can move files around, right? You got to understand where you drag and drop them. Right now, module 2 has nothing in it, okay? I have an example problem 4. I just ran a test to make sure everything was looking good, and I'm going to be starting fresh with you guys. So if I pop myself back over to this is, if you can get a snapshot of this, this is what we're going to do. Again, you might want to get yourself in split screen. I'm going to flop back and forth with these screens. I don't have dual enrollment, dual screens that I can work with, but I think I can manage this with just one screen with you guys as we try to do this build. Notice that the save down here, before I get in here, I want you to save this Visual Basic file as example 4. We've already have example 1, which was a flowchart, example 2, and example 3. Kind of already, I'm building up. So let's just call this example 4. All right, now I'm gonna hold off right here before I go into any more notes, just to try to get our software open. So I already have the Visual Basic program launched and open. I'm now taking methods to start a new. I'm gonna go new project with you guys, and mine very well will probably be still saying console application. All right, and I'm going to flip it over to window application, just like I may have addressed to you in the overview. I'm going to switch I'm going to delete the window application name, and I call it example 4. Simple enough. Okay, now instead of me hitting OK yet, I'm going to go browse, and you'll see my 2 folders. I'm going to go inside module 2. All right, so I'm now inside module 2, example 4, module 2. I'm good. This is where I want you guys to go. I'm now going to hit the OK button. It may take a couple seconds to launch it. Okay. Okay, my Visual Basic example 4 loaded up, and it looks probably a little bit different right now because you are seeing a form that it populates open. And I want to talk about the different windows again, what's on this surface on this screen right now, because I'm just going to touch a little bit. You see a toolbar, and this is what we're going to be using. And if I expand the common controls, you see a lot of controls over here, okay? And there's even more. This is higher level data, you know, components, printing, and such. All right, if I scroll the scroll bar up, all controls, if I open up all, this is all the controls. It's showing you all the controls. It's overwhelming to drill down to have them all. I usually, and in practicality, I keep the all form level closed, and I just open the common controllers. That's all we're needing open at this point, because these are the controls. Now, there's no way we're going to be able to use all of these and try to learn all of these in this programming, but we will try to touch on the most important ones, or the ones that are used the most in programming, so you're getting your feet wet. Okay, so I'm going to put this toolbar on the back burner for a second. I'm going to come back to it, but this should be open with the common controls. Then you have this window over here, which used to be just showing us the code of it. Now this is what is called a form. This is what we're going to put controls on. Now we have the capability of making this form bigger, and I'm going to come over to this property window down here on the bottom right hand side. We have all these properties right now is dealing with this form one. And if I scroll down, for example, and I see size 300 by 300, that is the default size a form comes in when you start a new project with Windows application. If I take my mouse and manually just go down to this corner and resize this a little bit and let go, you have that capability to adjust the form. Now look at these numbers, okay? I'm not saying you have to do that every single time, but there will be steps, let's say in the ebook, that ebook tells you to give you some set numbers here, okay? Or if, you know, for the most part, my example problems, I'm not giving you any set numbers to have it. So experience how you can make this look horizontal, look vertical. Okay, I'm just going to I'm off being 300 by 300 down here, 300 by 300. But please understand, you can do that. Now I'm going to switch my. There's a method I don't going to switch my notation real quick to a dot. There we go. So a little red dot that I'm going to basically try to use with you guys. Well, you can see where I'm talking about. This may help us out where my mouse is actually going. So understand this is the form. Okay, you can size it however you want to, and all these properties are dealing with this form. Okay, and I'm not going to indulge in much, but right now it's coming up with a generic and dealing with icons and what's written on it. Okay, and so this is just. There's loads of them. I don't know how many there are. I'm just scrolling up and down. There's a good 40 different properties just dealing with this form, okay? And I'm not going to have us all indulge in all these properties, but you can see back color, background image, which there's none right now, all right? So you can obviously have that capability of changing the color of your form, okay? So if you somehow lose this form, and I'm going to close this tab out, and I want you guys to close it out. Close out this X right here. If you lose this form somehow, and I'm just going to hit the save button, and it goes off. Okay, now you don't have the form. You don't see the form, okay? It is still there. I'm going to move my face down here. It is still there. It's in. We're still in this project. But if you come down inside the Solution Explorer and click on Form 1, okay, I'm just double clicking, it loads it back up. There will maybe times, I'm letting you know, because this has happened to me and other students working with this program, that you save the program and you're not done, you close it out, and I'll tell you how to launch it again. You come the next day and try to open it, and it may not show you. You open it, but this is all you got. You got nothing. How can I work on this when I don't see the form or the code? Well, if you come over to the solution window, you can see this example 4 and double click on Form 1, it can load back up. So a lot of things can happen here. Now I'm going to quickly talk about the pin up and the pin down, or in the X, and you get the windows back, okay? Because you could lose your windows, and I'll show you some features about manipulating. Now let's go back to the toolbar. You see this little pin up here, okay? If I take that pin and take it sideways, I took the pin, I was here, and I took the pin out, and I did it sideways. That pin, if I go over there, automatically will hover and close. Like if I go over there with my mouse and click on it, it opens up. As you can see, that pin is sideways. When I click away, it closes, okay? If I wanted to keep this toolbar open, I hit the pin. By default, when Visual Basic opens up, it's probably going to be pinned up there. You have that capability of sliding it down or sliding it back, just because maybe your screen is larger. Understand, ladies and gentlemen, if you somehow hit this X, it's gone. You have to go to the menu up there to bring it back. Let's experience that. I'm going to click the X. It's no longer hovering here on the left-hand side. And so how do I get it back? If I go View, I pull down the View menu and Toolbox, okay? And it brings it back, okay? So understand, through the View, a lot of these windows can come back. I'm going to come over to this Solution Explorer. If you somehow lose the Solution Explorer window, and if I go to View, ladies and gentlemen, and I should be able to see the Solution Explorer right here. So I'm going to click the Solution Explorer. It comes back. Finally, just like with the property window, if I somehow accidentally close down the property window, it's no longer there. And if I go to View, right there at the bottom, you should be able to see the property window right there on the bottom, and it brings it back. Now, sometimes readjusting these windows a little bit. Sometimes these windows can see that double arrow I can draw it out and make this window bigger. I can draw it in, make that bigger as well. And so for the most part, I'm happy with the default setting that it gives me. I'm asking you, okay, you should be able to work fine with this default setting. Now, with that said, sometimes these windows get floating because you do something like this, and now this property window is floating, and they can float around wherever you want them. I like to keep them nested just right as you see them. If I get on this top of this bar and I bring this back to this side, do you see how I can put this up top, I can put this to the right, I can put this down below. I'm going to select the down below one. It's right back in place. So experience this. I'm taking this window off. It's now floating. The property window takes upon the whole right side. And if I just go back over here to the right-hand side and flip my mouse right where I want it to top, it then nests it right at the top. So same thing with this toolbar, this toolbox. Toolbox can hover around the screen, but if I take it over to the left and click right here, it then holds that to the left-hand side. So this is kind of an overview of how these windows can be turned off, pinned up, X, and you can bring them back. I'm now going to move on with the next step in this. Okay, now I'm going to jump back to the notes real quick. I explored the different windows of this environment. Let me just go back to the notes now. Okay, you see an image here. Okay, so again, you need to read these notes, these 2 paragraphs dealing with the toolbox solution. I just reviewed the toolbox, the solution, and property windows. Okay, so read them. All right, so understand the content that you may see inside these windows very well may not pertain to this example problem, okay? Over the years, maybe what we're doing right now was example problem 6. So even though we're on example 4, all right, and it reads 6 up here, don't sweat that right now, okay? What I'm getting into should be this meaningful to what I'm talking about, okay? So 2, maybe the images in the environment looks a little bit older than what it currently looks like, okay? I'm going to get to that as well. So as you can see, and we need to understand the Form 1 Design tab, as I flip back, is going to be the form. Okay, it's going to be the GUI. It's going to be your interface during runtime, what you're going to see. Okay, so if I go back to the notes, Dropping down a little bit, you then see another one that says Form 1, and you see some code down here, all right? And this is what I want to get to right now with you guys, okay? So there's many ways you can open up a new tab to present the code, okay? One way, and you may not be able to see it here, I'm going to click on this tiny little arrow, and I can see the less than and greater than sign. I'm going to make this window just slightly bigger, so all the controls up here, you can then see them. Now, if I hover over this control right here, you see View Code. So if I just click on that button right there, the less than and greater than sign, click on that button, notice how it brings in a new tab. All right, and so we no longer are seeing the modules. We're seeing something that says public class Form 1 end class, and all your code is going to be written inside, which I'm going to hit return a couple times. All your code is going to be written inside this structure, public class end class. So if I go back to the notes real quick, ladies and gentlemen, understand that you now are going to be dealing with a form window and a code window that are tab oriented, but you can go back and forth between them. So understand that may look a little different here. It's quite all right. So simply scrolling down a little bit more, I've already touched base, and you need to read this content. I've already touched base with the pinups. Okay, you can see here, and again, this model may look a little, dated, but you can see here when this pin is sideways, that toolbar is then automatically forced to the left-hand side. So if I take that pin right there, it hovers on the left. And if I take it back out and pin it up, it's up. Now, you're not going to see any of the controls on this toolbar while you're in the code window, because you cannot really bring any codes over the code windows. But look what happens. If I take this tab and go to the design tab of the form, your controls, that toolbox then becomes activated, because the program is expecting that you may still be dealing with controls that you're going to put on the form. So if I go back over to the notes, and you just look at this toolbox right here that I'm presenting you, I'm highlighting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 8 different controls that this unit, module 1, you most likely will be dealing with or beyond, okay? Button, checkbox, checklist box, combo, label, list box, picture box, radio button, text box, okay? And there's much more, but I think these are the foundations that for you to grab and understand programming, these are the controls that we're going to be using. Okay, here we go. We're now going to try to make an attempt to run through building our first application with the window application, okay? Example for window application. So just a little introduction, okay? And you can see step 1 right here, but let me just explain to you. When writing a window application, it is a 3-step process, okay? Step 1, you're putting the controls on the form, and this is going to be a drag and drop process. Step 2 is changing the property names of the controls on the form, and then step 3 is writing the code, okay? 1, drag and drop the controls. 2, change the properties of those controls. And 3, writing the code of the program. Okay, so if you now look over here, you should be able to identify that I have kind of 3 different windows. So I have the toolbox, I have the first step of trying to get labels on the form, and I have another step trying to put text boxes and a button on the form. So I'm going to slowly work with you with this, but I'm going to move at a fast pace. Okay, so here we're at. I'm going to put 3 labels. I find the label right here. I'm going to drag that label over and let go, and it puts a label up there. Notice the property window has properties for that label. I'm putting that on the backboard. I need 3 more labels. I'm drawing another label on the form. I see another label. I'm drawing a 3rd label on the form. I see a 3rd label, and I'm going to put the 4th label down below. So does my screen right here look similar to my notes? Yeah, label 1, 2, 3, 4. But let me talk about these labels real quick. If I go back, look, when I drag below. Look, when I move this around, I get these blue lines that it helps me center this under the label or label up above of below. So if I grab label 3 and I move it back and forth, notice how these two blue lines is telling me I'm centered right below that. All right, this other label is kind of off center, and that's going to be your name. So if I go now back to the notes again for review, I'm now moving on to this other form where I'm going to be adding text boxes and buttons. Notice that we have a label 1 in a text box to the right of that, label 2 text box, label 3, and there's another text box, and there's a button down below. 4 more controls, okay, that I'm going to add to this form. So if I come back over here, I'm looking for the text box, and note my text box down below, and I'm going to get this notation on again. It sometimes goes off on me. Okay, if I go to the text box down below, you see it right there. So if I left click and bring it in, you can see, and if I go into label 4, I can also see a blue line. So I'm just going to put it in the centered right under label 4, my first text box. I'm going to grab a second text box, and I'm trying to get the two blue lines that are hovering center over it. And one more text box, as you see there, I'm hovering that third text box right there. So now we got 3 text boxes. I want to give you one button. All right, so I'm going to go over here to the top, button, and I'm going to drag the button under, and so you can see how it's aligned with the text box of above. So if I compare the form right now to the notes, if I flop over the notes, you can see the notes labels. It looks identical to what you see. So understand, debrief you guys on these steps in terms of entering the controls on the form. If I go back to the page, again, if I click around button 1 and I look at the property window, which we'll look at here later of this activity, because that's a third step, there's property for button 1. Look, there's loads of property. If I click one of the text boxes, which is text box 3, look all the loads of different properties that you see. There's a lot, 40, 50 different properties. Okay, for the most part, we're done with step 1. We've got all the controls on the form. I mean, I can go back here and click on this form and see this white space or this open space. Could I then now decrease it so the form kind of looks the same dimensions around the sides here? Okay, I brought that up a little bit more, but for the most part, we're done with step 1. There's 3 steps. Now we're going on with step 2 with kind of changing the property's name. Okay, so if I go back to the notes, ladies and gentlemen, and you will see, if I get on this notation again, you'll see that if I scroll down, excuse me, where I am down, we're getting down with all step 1, and I have a paragraph talking about placing the object on the controls on the form. Okay, so now we're going into step 2, renaming the controls on the form, renaming the properties. Okay, and so if you look at this form, you see something adding numbers here. The labels aren't saying label 1, 2, 3. You got your name down here. Calculate button has the word calculate in that button 1. The text boxes, for the most part, are still blank. Sometimes people flop back and forth between step 1 and 2 when they want to move the properties around the screen and it's not showing up. But bear with me as we work through this right now. So if I go back to the program, all right, and I'm going to click on label 1. All right, the key label that you're going to have to scroll all the way down there, alphabetized, is text. All right, so right now text is called label 1, label 1. I'm going to back out. I'm going into that cell to the right of text down here on the right hand side, and I type in simple number space 1. All right, and so I'm just going to float around the three different labels and enter that information in. And again, if I go back here, label 1, label 2, total, and your name. Okay, so again, there's going to be potential more properties that we're going to have to get into. We just dealt with one. We just dealt with the text properties of this, okay? And so each of these properties, you could see how it gives you a generic label. So if I come up here and I scroll up and I look for font, and I see font here for a second, and you can see font, 4-color image, a lot of stuff. If I just simply double and click on font for a second, and you can see this elliptical. It's 3 button, it's elliptical button elliptical button, and if I click on that button, it should open up a font window, all right, that you have the capability of changing the font size, bold, okay, so it's a font dialog box that loads up here. So if you can see this real quick, so move ahead and go ahead, and I'm not going to do this, go ahead with you, go ahead and for each of these labels, number 2, total, your name, and then even, you know, we'll get into the other ones like calculator. Go ahead and rename all of these texts to the proper verbiage. You don't have to do anything to text boxes, but take the time, as you can see what I've done, and rename all these properties by what the labels should be. And the button should be calculator. If you can see this, you see that this is what it's currently reading. Okay, so by all means, if I wanted to click this label to be bold and I wanted to increase it to be, let's say, 12 versus what it was 10, okay, and I simply hit OK, do you see this label increase like it did? Now, it kind of may have went off center, and I click on this and try to bring it back. See that purple line? It tells you you're lined up. Okay, I like that. So I'm going to do that again. I'm going to take that same procedure. I'm now clicking label 2, and I'm going to do that real quick with all 3 of them. Bold, 12, okay, and then try to make a subtle adjustment if I need to. Going down to the total, okay, trying to make the font bigger. Total, font, elliptical, and bold, 12, okay, okay. So, and I do it one more time with my name, your name, okay. Click on the button, bold, 12, okay. So now your text is becoming richer, okay, and coming out. So all these controls, even button has the same procedure. Look, font. If I go to the font and click that button, and I just want to take this generic bold, 12, and okay. Now, what happens, this is a good representation, that does it look like my button is kind of getting cut off, or I'm just simply going to, I can make that button real big, real small. All right, so I'm just making it big again and line it up with the text box. So you can see as I make change to the property, I'm now having to go back to adjust the control. So I'm kind of flopping back between 1 and 2. As I'm working in 2, I'm having to make just to step 1. Okay, because that obviously button was too small to house the text on that screen. Again, I'm going to do the same thing with these text boxes. Okay, I'm going to go and just change it to bold and do the 12 around. Let's see if I can. I mean, it seems somewhat tedious. All right. When doing this, I think there's another method, but I'm just asking you guys. Hey, this is our first time doing it. Let's go ahead and change all these properties. So now all these controls have a bold mechanism to them and 12-point font. Okay, so this is what the finished product should be as we have everything, we changed the font. So there could be times where you guys are flopping back and forth between step 1 and step 2, changing the property. Notice how my button is reading calculator. It didn't before, it was just reading button. So you can actually manipulate, go and manipulate the control in the properties and then go back into and rename it. So you can, you'll find people going back between step 1 and 2. Talk about the text boxes real quick. I'm not going to go there today, but in future projects, you will be called upon to change the property of the text box in terms of the name property. Okay, and the name property is going to be used on the code side. We're going to be using something that says text box 3 for the total. We're going to be using something that says text box 1, text box 2. As you can look at this application real quick, we have 2 numbers that during runtime, when we type a number in here, it'll give us total. It's adding 2 numbers, just like a calculator, okay? And so I don't want to overindulge you guys, but we will be involved in changing text boxes, the name of it, so it's more relevant in the code. So we are now done with step 1 and 2, and now going to be going into working with the step 3, coding the program. Okay, just to help you out again, I'm going to assist in showing you clicking the the Form 1 tab up here, and that should, for the most part, open up the code window, okay? Somehow, if you don't have that form window open again, which I'm going to close mine real quick, you can find it over here in the solution window. You see the less than and greater than sign. Again, you might have to pull this out to see that less than and greater than sign. So if I click on that, that should open my code window. I had it open before, and I now open it up again. So I'm going to flip over to the notes, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I'm over in the notes. You can see if I scroll down here, I'm talking about a button. I'm talking about button 1 here, and you can see, let's look at what's going on here. And we also see the flower box, which I'm going to talk to as well. The flower box should go right between the public class Form 1 and the private sub. Well, you don't have a private sub there. I'm going to go ahead and start with trying to, how do I get this private sub in there? You never have to type in the code for any of the private sub. And in fact, you probably get it wrong trying to type it in. This is a lot easier. You're going to try to follow my steps here with the double clicking on a button to bring in this, okay? So if I go back to the code real quick and I go back to the form, our program code is going to be housed in this button right here, in this calculate button. So during runtime, when we click that button, we're going to get some results in this text box right here. That's what we want. So the whole program code is wrapped in that button. So if I'm going to tell you, let's right now double, triple click on that button. Let's see what happens. I'm going to double, triple click on that button, and you'll see code automatically generate in this code box. So I'm going to come up to the Form 1. I'm going to clean it up and give me a couple returns down, and I'm going to give me a return there, and I'm going to give me a return there. Okay, so I can identify what you guys are going on. Now my font looks kind of big, and you see this return line here real quick. Now look, if I'm coding and I'm done with the form, I don't need this property box open. I'm going to pin this up. Okay, it's still there. I go to the text box and it's there, but I just unpinned it. Okay, so now if I go to the code, my window is larger. I can see there's no return. So what you see here is a private sub button 1. You didn't have to write that code. So if I'm going to delete that real quick, I'm going to delete those 2 lines, for example, and I'm going to do this processing step again. If I come over to the form and double, triple click on that button, it automatically is going to bring in that code for that particular item. So if I go back and look at the code again, you can see that private sub click. Okay, so to define this a little bit, I have a button 1 click, an object. It's an event argument, and it's handling button 1. So I'm not going to get in much in trying to define these 2 lines, kind of like what we're doing in the console application. All right, but we're just dealing with different terminology, different keywords. Okay. We have a public class. Public class is dealing with Form 1, and this Form 1 can change its name, and I'm going to get to how to change this Form 1 down the road here too. We have an end class, so this public class should always be here. This end class should always be here. If you somehow delete the end class or the public class deleted, your program's going to have errors that could self-destruct. Word of wisdom: never delete the public class end class. Your program could have issues, okay? The private sub button 1 is just pertaining to that control. We could have many different types of private subs. We're gonna see in the future where we could have like 4 buttons, 4 different buttons. Each of those buttons going to have a different private sub. Dealing with a very simple window application, we're only going to be dealing with 1 private sub. Now that's button 1. We have the capability of changing this button 1 to something more relevant to maybe calculator. Can that calculation or calculator? Can we have that capability of changing that button 1 to calculator? Yes, we most certainly do. All right, so our code that we're going to write shortly here, is going to go inside this button 1. Why inside that button 1? Because that's inside that button 1 right there. That tells us the code, what's going to go on this program, will be wrapped in there. So I'm going to let you know. Let's start with the firebox. We've been down this road already. All right, so I want to put the firebox right below the public class. So I'm going to right click and go open new real quick. I'm opening a new tab. I'm then going to highlight the code of the yellow box, which I'm doing with you right now, making sure I get everything. I'm copying it, and I am going into the code. Right above, I'm going to give me another return right below the public class, excuse me, and I'm copying it. So at this time, I'm going to, pause example 4. I want you to put example 4, put your name, put the date, and I'll tell you the purpose at the end. Okay, I'm now going to go in and write this one line of code. Again, you can see I've given you a purpose right here. This program will add 2 numbers. That's what it's going to be doing. It's simple, adding 2 numbers. Okay, so if I go back to the website now and get to the notes, again, we're getting into step 3. Step 3 is writing the code of it. Now, let me look at here. See this yellow box right here. It says text box 3 dot text equals value, and then text box 1 is in parentheses plus value, text box 2 is in parentheses. Well, these text box 1, text box 2, and text box 3, let's just focus on that. If I go back to the program real quick and I go back to the form, text box 1 plus text box 2 equals text box 3. Well, in writing this code, we're putting text box 3 in the front. Text box 3 equals text box 1 and text box 2. So if I go back to the code of the notes, understand that you need to use the keywords here, .text. This is a dot program, as you guys very well may have seen with the console.write. Okay, console is what? It's writing. So text box has a control, and it's defined as a property, as a text. Okay, now value, you may be scratching your head. What's the VAL, value? And I'm going to talk about this more in my next example problem, but I've highlighted here, a value function returns a text box to a numeric digit. The program doesn't know what the text box is, and in some sense, its definition right now is text, like a string. And so we're telling the math formula here, that this is text box is a value. The text box is wrapped in parentheses, so it's a value. Whatever it's going to input is going to be a value. And obviously, you understand the plus symbol. So we have text box 1 plus text box 2 will equal text box 3. So I want you right now to go ahead and type this single line of text on to your code right here. So if I type in text box and 3 dot, and you should get a telesense that drops down 3. Look, I see a telesense. There it is, tab dot text equal. Okay, and I want you to type this whole line as I pause for a second. Okay, so here's line of code. Understand that you really have to type these controls correctly. But sometimes when you have it under lowercase and you type the lowercase, it automatically will populate it up. Let me just look at the telesense for a second. If I take out this number 1 in text box, all right, that telesense drops down. All right, so if I was typing text box for a second, and even if I typed a lowercase b, all right, and I know this is supposed to be text box 1, all right, and if I hit the tab button, I can arrow down to which one I want. If I hit the tab button right now, it'll automatically put that in there, okay? But you're still going to have to type .text. If I back out the TX, back it out to the T, notice how the telesense drops again based on the property of this, and this is text. So if I hit the tab button again, it gives me that prop. It's just a really helpful feature. So long story short, this is what your program should, one line of code, that's all it is. You have a program that has 2 inputs, 1 processing step, and 1 output, which is the total. So I know sometimes when you try to run this program for the first time, it could stall and be slow. I pre-ran this and it took like 40 seconds for it to run the first time based on my speed of machine. Once you run it thereafter, it should be quicker. So I'm going to go ahead and run mine and it's going to be quick. So if I right now go ahead and hit that green arrow button, I get a form. Look at this form. I can move this form all the way around, and it is the dimension of what I have sized it. Now, down on my toolbar, this is what that icon looks like, okay, right here. Now, I can't go and manipulate my code. I can't do anything while this program is running, okay? I'm now going to run it and test it out. So if I say a number like 885 plus, I'm just making up number, a large number, and I hit calculate, it's giving me that. But I'm like, how do I know that's right? I have to do it myself. Well, if you do something easy, if I click back into the first tab, an easy number, I'm going to go 4. I'm going to delete all these numbers just to just check 6. 4 and 6 should be 10. Oh, okay, that logic is correct because it's much lower. So when you're desk checking, try to do something simple at a low grade as this, so you can most certainly get an output. So at the very least, I think we're done with this example problem. We got the code, we got the form, and it's running. Now I'm going to move on to try to screenshot this and put this into a Word program to submit it to me. Okay, I'm still in runtime, and I'm simply going to stop the program. We'll be creating more buttons in the next example problem to show you how we can have more code and more private sub. Simply, I'm just going to hit this X. I'm just going to hit this X up into the top right-hand corner. By hitting the X on that form, it stops the program. So go ahead and open up a Word document. If I go back over the notes real quick, you can see there's directions for turning in the example problem virtual. And I have down here example problem 4 and your last name. So I want you to create a Word document like we've done in the past, so you can screenshot these form and code. We're not worried about any writing any flowcharts. We will be going back to flowcharts, but right now it's just the mechanics of, did you do this assignment correctly? Did you create a form? Did you write a code? And I can see it. So I'm going to work with you on this. So I have a Word document open, as I had put your name, first and last name, put a line item that says example 4 code, and I've increased the font, and then a line item that says example 4 form. All right, so I'm going to start right here, one line below the code, and I'm going to do a snapshot screen snippet tool to capture this. So if I go back to the program real quick, you could see this program right here. This is mine. Now, my font is bigger, and your font may not be that big. So if I take those tests again with you guys, if I pull down the tool menu, and if I go to options, okay, options in the environment setting, there's something that says font and color. Mine's currently set on 14. So if I had a large code and I bring it back to 12, okay, my code is then become smaller. So I'm now going to go to the snippet tool. My snippet tool is on the taskbar. I click new in the snippet tool, and what I'm going to do is crop this tab from the public class form 1 to the end class, all the way down to maybe one line below. I now have a snapshot of my product. Now, it's giving me that red dot in there. You surely don't have to worry about the red dot, but I'm simply going to go, copy, go into the Word document, Control V, all right? Control V should be dumping that picture in there. Okay, do you feel like you want to maybe decrease the size of it a little bit? You most certainly can. That's legible to me. I can see the name of the program. I can see the purpose. I can see the code. I'm now going to, ladies and gentlemen, clean it up and go one line below the form. I'm going to have to run the program. All right. So once again, I'm going to run the program, and okay, desk check. Okay. So I'm going to type in 50 for the first number and 40 for the second number, calculate. I see a 90, okay? That is showing me a desk check. So I'm going to, once again, go back to the snippet program, go new, and I'm going to crop just this form during runtime. It's running. I'm now cropping it. I'm now taking this form to the Word document, and I'm doing a Control V. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, if I zoom out a little bit, I have a document right here that has your name, the code at the top, and the form down the bottom. Okay. I'm now going to save it. Okay. Again, go back to the website. I tell you the example problem 4 followed by your first and last name. So if I go into File and I go Save As, okay, and I'm going to target that Module 2 folder right beside, or should be right nested right near your, I'm going to go to the document right near your program that you just wrote. Program, Module 2. Understand I had 2 example problems. You should just have 1, all right? And so I'm going to type in example 4 followed by your first and last name. Okay, so standard protocol, and now I'm going to go save. And so you now have the finished product. You're going to go back to the website with the example problem where the Canvas is, and you're going to then upload this example problem Word document to this Canvas Module 2 example problem 4. So this concludes the example problem in 4 and module number 2.